The punishment order reached Churchill's desk with 3 signatures already pressed into the page, and every officer in the room expected him to approve it before the German prisoner convoy left the yard. Instead, Churchill stopped at one handwritten line near the margin, tapped it twice with his cigar, and ordered the convoy held at the gate, because the condemned man's name appeared in a report that should never have existed. The punishment order arrived at the British command office before breakfast, carried in a leather folder by a young staff officer who had clearly been told not to lose sight of it. The document concerned a German prisoner named Major Lucas Reinhardt, accused of organizing a violent Baroque uprising inside a temporary holding camp near the coast. 3 British officers had already recommended immediate disciplinary transfer to a remote military prison, where Reinhardt would be separated from witnesses before the camp returned to order. Churchill was not expected to examine the file for long. The holding camp had become a problem after 2 nights of unrest, damaged bunks, stolen tools, and shouted accusations between German prisoner groups. The camp staff wanted a fast decision, and Reinhardt appeared to be the obvious cause. According to the report, he had threatened cooperative prisoners, hidden messages inside ration sacks, and ordered men to sabotage work details. Churchill read the summary while standing near the window, then turned the page and stopped at a handwritten note in the margin. It stated that Reinhardt had been identified by a prisoner witness at 2140, yet a separate medical entry placed the same prisoner witness in the infirmary unconscious at that exact time. The contradiction was small, buried beneath formal language, but it was enough to make Churchill close the folder halfway and ask who had prepared the witness section. The room became uncomfortable at once. Colonel Arthur Pembroke, the camp liaison officer, explained that the witness statements had been collected under pressure during the night, when guards were trying to prevent another disturbance. Churchill asked whether Reinhardt had been questioned directly. Pembroke answered that the prisoner refused to cooperate and that delaying the punishment would look like weakness inside the camp. Churchill ordered the convoy stopped before it left the holding yard. The decision irritated several officers because trucks were already loaded, guards had already been assigned, and prisoner leadership had been told Reinhardt would be removed before noon. Churchill did not argue about appearances. He ordered the witness files, infirmary logs, night guard reports, and Baroque damage records brought to the office immediately. At the camp, Reinhardt was pulled from the transfer truck and returned to a guarded room beside the administration hut. British guards expected him to look relieved, but he looked toward the barracks instead, as if the delay had made someone else more dangerous. When an interpreter told him Churchill had halted the order, Reinhardt asked only whether the prisoner named Emil Hart had already been moved. The question created the first crack in the official story. Emil Hart was the supposedly unconscious witness whose name appeared beside the false time. Guards found him in the infirmary, weak but awake, and he denied giving any statement at all. He said 2 German prisoner leaders had taken his identity card during the night and warned him to stay silent unless he wanted his medical rations cut off. By noon, Churchill had not approved the punishment. The convoy remained blocked at the gate, and the camp staff had a new problem. The man they planned to remove might have been framed, while the witness used against him had been unable to speak. The first conflict was no longer whether Reinhardt had caused the unrest. It was whether the punishment order had been built to move him away before anyone discovered why he was asking about Emil Hart. Subscribe for more forgotten German POW stories like this one. The escalation began when British officers searched Baroque 7, where the first disturbance had been reported. They expected to find hidden tools, damaged planks, and signs of organized sabotage, but the layout told a stranger story. The broken bunks were concentrated near one corner. The stolen tools had been returned badly hidden beneath a stove, and several ration sacks had been cut open in a way that looked dramatic but wasted almost nothing. Reinhardt was brought to the doorway under guard and asked to explain why his name appeared in 3 accusations. He answered that the accusations had been written by men who wanted him gone because he had found a second list hidden inside the prisoner council records. The interpreter asked what kind of list, and Reinhardt said it contained names of prisoners marked for punishment after transfer, not by the British, but by German hardliners controlling parts of the barracks. Colonel Pembroke resisted the claim immediately. He said German internal disputes often produced false accusations, and the British could not treat every prisoner complaint as evidence. Churchill ordered him to continue the search anyway. In the prisoner council room, guards opened a locked drawer and found ordinary work schedules on top, but beneath them lay a folded roster written in German shorthand. Reinhardt's name appeared beside the word remove. The discovery changed the pace of the investigation. The roster did not clear Reinhardt, but it proved that another group wanted him transferred. Guards brought in the German prisoner council leader, Captain Ernst Vogel, who claimed the roster referred only to work reassignment. Churchill asked why reassignment notes were hidden under lock, and Vogel answered that prisoner administration required order that outsiders did not understand. A second search team entered the ration shed and found more evidence of stage disorder. Several sacks carried knife cuts made after they were emptied, not before. A British quartermaster confirmed that the damaged sacks had already been recorded as issued, which meant no real food had been destroyed during the supposed sabotage. The incident had created a visible scandal without causing the supply damage described in the punishment file. The escalation moved into the infirmary when Emil Hart identified one of the men who took his identity card. The man was a Baroque orderly named Franz Keller, who worked closely with Vogel and had access to patient tags. Keller denied everything until guards found Emil's card hidden inside a medical bandage roll. Once confronted, he admitted carrying the card, but claimed Vogel had told him it was needed to correct witness records. Churchill ordered the original witness statements examined under stronger light. The signatures looked different from the names beside them, and one paper had been pressed so hard that the writing left impressions on the sheet below. A clerk rubbed graphite across the lower page and revealed a draft accusation naming Reinhardt before any witness had supposedly spoken. The punishment order had begun as a conclusion before the investigation started. The camp grew unstable as rumors spread that Reinhardt might not be the cause of the unrest. Vogel's supporters gathered near the washhouse, while prisoners who had feared speaking began approaching guards with fragments of information. One man described threats made after evening count. Another described lists hidden in laundry bundles. A third claimed that Reinhardt had tried to stop prisoners from attacking a man marked as an informer. By evening, Churchill had enough contradictions to block the punishment formally, but not enough proof to expose the full structure behind it. He ordered Reinhardt kept under guard, Vogel watched closely, and every prisoner council document seized before nightfall. The escalation had turned a disciplinary decision into a struggle over who controlled truth inside the camp, and the men who created the punishment order still had hours before the next count to destroy what remained. The major consequence arrived just after midnight, when smoke rose from the small records hut behind the prisoner council room. Guards reached the hut before flames spread beyond a storage shelf, but several folders had already been shoved into a metal bin and set alight. British soldiers dragged the bin into the yard, smothered it with wet canvas, and recovered half-burned papers that still showed prisoner names, work numbers, and punishment marks. Churchill was awakened and brought to the camp before dawn. He stood in the yard while clerks separated the damaged papers and matched them against the seized roster. The same names appeared repeatedly, including Reinhardt, Emil Hart, and two men recently sent to remote work details after being accused of disorder. The consequence was now visible. The punishment system had not targeted one man only. It had been used to move selected prisoners out of reach. Reinhardt gave his first full statement that morning. He said he had discovered the hidden punishment marks after being assigned to translate a work list, and when he questioned Vogel, he was warned that men who interfered with prisoner discipline would be declared dangerous. Reinhardt claimed the Baroque riot had been staged after he refused to hand back the list. His story matched the burned papers too closely for Pembroke to dismiss. The consequence widened when British guards checked the remote work detail records. 2 prisoners listed as transferred for labor had never arrived at the assigned site. Their files contained signatures from a British corporal, but that corporal had been on medical leave when the forms were supposedly signed. A clerk checked the stamp ink and found it matched a pad kept in the prisoner council room, not the British Transport Office. Vogel was questioned again and changed his explanation. He now claimed that the hidden marks identified prisoners at risk from other Germans, not targets for punishment. Churchill asked why men marked protected had been sent to harsh work details under false paperwork. Vogel answered that order inside a prisoner camp required difficult decisions. Churchill replied that difficult decisions were not the same as forged signatures. The camp consequence became personal when Emil Hart revealed that his brother's name appeared on one of the half-burned sheets. The brother had been accused of stealing tools 2 weeks earlier and transferred before Emil could speak to him. The recovered paper showed that the accusation had been prepared before the tools went missing. Emil stepped back from the evidence table and asked whether his brother had ever reached the work site. The answer arrived after noon through a telephone call from the transport office. Emil's brother had not reached the listed site, but a man under a similar tag number had been recorded at a coastal depot under guard. Churchill ordered immediate confirmation and sent a vehicle to bring him back if possible. The investigation now had a living test case, a man whose movement could prove whether Vogel's system ended in reassignment or disappearance. Vogel's supporters tried to stir the barracks during the wait, claiming the British were attacking German authority and protecting informers. This time the crowd did not move with them. Too many prisoners had seen names on burned papers, forged stamps, and false accusations. The consequence of the halted punishment was spreading beyond Reinhardt. Men who once feared council discipline now understood that official-looking forms could be turned against any of them. By sunset, the missing brother was found alive at the coastal depot, registered under the wrong tag number, and scheduled for onward movement the next morning. Churchill ordered the movement stopped and the man returned under escort. The major consequence was complete. A punishment he had been asked to approve had opened a trail from forged witness statements to false transfers, and the camp could no longer treat internal prisoner discipline as harmless paperwork. The major reversal began when Emil's brother returned to the camp and refused to support Reinhardt's story. Everyone expected him to accuse Vogel, yet he said Reinhardt had also attended the meeting where punishment marks were discussed. The statement struck the yard hard because it threatened to turn the rescued witness into proof that Reinhardt had hidden his own role. Vogel immediately demanded that Churchill approve the original punishment after all. Churchill did not accept the reversal at face value. He ordered Emil's brother, named Otto Hart, questioned away from both Vogel and Reinhardt. Otto admitted that Reinhardt had been present at the meeting, but then explained why. Reinhardt had been summoned after refusing to sign a transfer request, and the meeting ended when he tore a marked roster in half. Otto had seen the fight begin, but not the documents that followed. The reversal shifted again when Otto produced a torn piece of paper hidden in his boot lining. It matched the missing half of the roster seized from the council drawer, and the tier pattern fit exactly. On the fragment, Vogel's initials appeared beside 3 names marked for transfer after public example. Reinhardt's name appeared beneath them with a different instruction: force signature or remove. He had not been part of the system. He had been its next target. Vogel tried to discredit Otto by saying the fragment was planted during his return from the depot. Churchill ordered the depot escort questioned. The escort confirmed Otto had asked to keep his boots during the ride because he feared losing the only proof he still possessed. Then a British clerk compared the ink on the fragment with the burned records and found the same source. The reversal turned fully against Vogel. Churchill ordered a controlled test. Instead of announcing Vogel's arrest, he allowed the next prisoner council meeting to proceed under observation, with a false rumor spread that the punishment order would be approved by evening. Hidden British observers watched Vogel's assistants move between barracks carrying small slips of paper. One slip ordered Keller to prepare 2 new witness statements before the convoy returned. Keller was caught in the laundry shed with blank forms and a stolen stamp. He confessed that the council planned to accuse Otto of lying, declare Reinhardt violent again, and request immediate removal for both men. The same machine that nearly sent Reinhardt away was already rebuilding itself under Churchill's eyes. The reversal became undeniable because the system repeated its method the moment it believed pressure had returned. Churchill entered the council room during the attempted preparation and ordered every man at the table to place his hands where the guards could see them. No weapons were found, but documents were everywhere: draft accusations, work detail changes, ration notes, and lists of men labeled unreliable. The council had governed by paperwork, and paperwork became the evidence that ended it. The major reversal ended with Churchill refusing the punishment formally in writing. He crossed out the approval line, wrote that the sentence was unsupported by verified authority, and ordered Vogel and Keller removed from all prisoner administrative roles. Reinhardt was not freed from inquiry, but he was no longer the condemned man from the morning order. By night, the question had reversed completely. The camp was no longer asking whether Reinhardt deserved punishment. It was asking how close false authority had come to carrying one out. The final irreversible event began with a public reconstruction of the punishment order inside the camp yard. Churchill ordered 3 tables placed before the prisoners, one for the original accusation, one for the seized council records, and one for the rescued transfer files. Each document was read in sequence by an interpreter while British clerks marked where the times, signatures, and witness claims failed to match. Reinhardt stood beside Emil and Otto hard under guard, while Vogel stood apart with Keller and 2 assistants. Churchill did not permit shouting from either side. Every prisoner who had signed a statement was brought forward and asked what he believed he had signed. The answers exposed the same pattern. One man thought he confirmed a Baroque disturbance, another thought he reported missing tools, and another signed after being told refusal would cost his mail. The final danger came when Vogel's last supporter tried to destroy the torn roster fragment during the reconstruction. He pushed through the line carrying a water bucket, stumbled toward the evidence table, and tipped it deliberately. A guard caught the bucket before it covered the papers, but the movement was clear enough for the yard to understand. Even after exposure, the network still tried to erase the one fragment that made the reversal complete. Churchill ordered duplicate copies made immediately. The original order, the infirmary log, the torn roster, the burned papers, the false transfer forms, and the stolen stamp were photographed, copied, and sealed in separate packets. One packet remained at the camp, one went to British command, and one accompanied the formal review of every prior internal punishment. The evidence no longer depended on one table. Then the prisoner council was dissolved. British officers took control of work assignments, transfer recommendations, mail restrictions, and internal discipline until a new review process could be established. German prisoners could still report problems, but no punishment could move forward unless British records, medical logs, and witness statements agreed independently. The machinery that nearly sent Reinhardt away was dismantled in public. Vogel's authority ended without a dramatic speech. He was removed from the main Baroque row and placed under separate guard pending investigation into forged records and false transfers. Keller was kept as a witness because his confession had exposed the stamp process. Reinhardt remained under review, but his status changed from condemned prisoner to protected witness in the wider inquiry. The final irreversible act came when Emil's brother stood before the yard and confirmed his correct tag number, proper name, and false transfer route. British clerks corrected the record in front of everyone, then called the 2 other marked men and began checking their files as well. A punishment order had nearly erased one man's voice, but the stopped approval now restored several. By evening, the execution of paperwork mattered more than the punishment itself. Churchill signed a new directive stating that no internal prisoner sentence, transfer, or disciplinary removal could be approved without verified British documentation and independent medical confirmation when injuries were involved. The directive was nailed beside the camp office where every prisoner could see it, and the punishment Vogel wanted became the reason his system could never operate the same way again. Churchill left the camp after sunset, but the unsigned punishment order remained sealed on the evidence table. Reinhardt stood near the office while Emil and Otto read the corrected transfer entry that brought Otto back from the coastal depot. The yard that had demanded quick punishment now watched clerks copy a rule designed to slow every future sentence. Churchill had been told to approve one man's removal, yet by refusing the pen, he uncovered the paper trail that had already removed others. Most people know how World War II ended. Very few know what happened inside these prison camps. Subscribe for more untold WW2 stories.